wife before I came up here that I was going to yield my time to the cello people. But hearing and seeing Doug, I'm a little taken back. Thank you. You know, Doug is one of the smartest lawyers I have ever met, and he took me under his wings many years ago when I was just out of law school, and his friendship and care over the years has really meant a lot. And thank you for all the lies you've told this group here. Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. When I was first told that I would be given the keynote today, I was honored, of course, but all of a sudden I was starting to get worried about what I was going to say. And on the train into work, I was watching President Kennedy's old speeches. We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but hard. And and then the save the date notice came out with my name as a keynote, and I started panicking that everyone's going to cancel and no one's going to show up now, and it'll be just me and the law school scholarship recipients. So I'm really glad that all of you are here today, and thank you. It really means a lot, and also the congratulations to the law students. I want to talk about three things today. As the first president of KABA, I think I owe to everyone to talk about how we started a few years ago, and then how pro bono played such a critical role in that, and have some, at the end, remarks about finding fulfillment in work. I'll try to weave those three together somehow. As some of you know, in the Korean American immigrant parlance, I'm referred as the 1.5 generation. I tell people that wasn't my GPA in college. It means that I was born in Korea, came here when I was young. It also means that I escaped all the hard work that the first generation and the pains that they had to endure. I'm also not as cool and hip as the second generation, I have to say. My family and I moved to New Jersey from Korea, and then I came out to Seattle after law school. And arriving here, I subscribed to the Korean newspapers to kind of get acclimated about what is going on here. I was interested in particularly the advertisement on the legal section. And there are a number of lawyers advertising with some surnames which were Korean. And it was about that time I think I got a cold call from a lawyer named Kevin Jung. He said he saw my name in the new bar admitted list, and he asked me if I was Korean. That's not the way you want to do outreach, but back then it was fairly common. If you saw another Asian person, you always walked up to him and say, "Are you Korean?" He and I got together for lunch, I believe, and he told me about a few other Korean American attorneys in the area. And it was about that time that I met Mel Kang from Ekman Borer, Philip Yoon from Garvey Schubert. I knew Ben Lee, some of you know Ben. He was kind of the dean of the Korean community legal work over the years. And there were also some first generation Korean American Korean attorneys like Eddie Yoon and Dae Ban. I want to be careful here because some of them are no longer with us, and I want to make sure that I'm not violating the dead man statute going forward. While these things were happening, I was reading in the Korean media quite a bit about some of the legal problems that are prevalent with Korean community folks. There was a lot of stories about janitorial workers who's bought franchises that were getting not compensated. There were a lot of discussions about undocumented people, and just a lot of people who didn't understand the language, and they were signing leases and then they were getting evicted. And then about that time, at the church I was attending, some people found out that I was a lawyer, and I was getting approached almost on a weekly basis with people with legal problems, and some like divorces and cases that I really didn't do any work for. But it was really hard to turn them away. And their facial expressions when I told them that I didn't do that kind of work really lingered with me, and it reminded me of the time that, when I first came to the U.S. And got, thrown into the deep end of the pool. So when I got together with other Korean attorneys, we started talking about it. What do we do about this kind of stuff? And as Doug mentioned earlier, I was with Lane Powell at the time, and the firm had a fairly robust a pro bono practice where they were encouraging junior attorneys like myself to go out and that we would get credit for the hours that we spent doing pro bono. I just wanted to get out of the library where I was mostly, resigning. And I got to have my first real client, so to speak, and got to defend a deposition for the first time in my life. So that was kind of exciting. So I mentioned these ideas to other Korean attorneys, but we were young, we didn't really know what we were doing, and there was a lot of admin stuff. Somebody mentioned that you need malpractice insurance, and I think somebody else said that Koreans don't sue each other. I don't think that's really true. And somehow the word of our discussions got to the Korean Consul General at the time, Mr. Chang Soo-ko. I met with him, and after hearing about some of our issues, he said he could help. And he hosted a dinner in January of 1992 where he hooked us up with folks from Korean Community Counseling Center. These were volunteer first-generation women, really dedicated, and they were doing a lot of information and referral. So it seemed like a natural fit. But my memory is that the dinner really didn't go very well because we were kind of reluctant to do a lot of the dirty work, and we were kind of pushing back a little bit. So after the dinner, there was kind of a long pause, and nothing happened. I was also in the midst of meeting my wife and getting married, so I was a little busy that spring. Anyways, then on April 29, 1992, as many of you know, the LA riots happened. Most of you probably have seen the videos of Korean shop owners on rooftops trying to protect their property. And it was a real shockwave that spread all across the United States, including up here. And after the property loss issues kind of subsided a little bit, there was also a growing criticism and awareness that our community had been too insular, that we hadn't really participated in the mainstream community, sort of not being at the table. And there was some direct criticism about the up-and-coming younger professional class, like myself, who had a lot of first generation as clients, but really wasn't giving anything back. We were called like, I don't know, yamche or kakjengi kind of a thing. Ask your neighbors what that means. Excuse me. I don't remember the exact sequence of events, but after a couple of weeks, we got our act together. We hooked up with KCCC, and then we had 6 lawyers volunteer: me, Kevin Jung, Philip Yoon, Sunny Ko, and Mel Kang, and Ben Lee. And the first Saturday, actually I found out, was June 6th. And many of you know June 6th, D-Day anniversary. When good things happen, we get these historical landmarks, I remember the headline in the Korean paper that these young lawyers gave up their busy schedules to give back to the community. So not long after we started, we got more exposure, and I got on, I think, radio programs to talk about what we were doing. And there was just a lot of interest in what we were doing. And because of that, we gained more volunteer lawyers, and we kept going. So in October '93, that's when we finally met together at Ben's office with Gina Kim, Andrew Kim, and about a dozen of us that we selected our first slate of officers. I think one of the first things we did was translating King County legal pamphlets into Korean so that people could understand and hand them out at the sessions. And then Ben and I testified at the anti-fraud task force to talk about insurance fraud that was rampant in our community, which is a real a problem because there were a lot of non-lawyers taking advantage of people who had real serious legal problems, but they were desperate, so they were taking advantage of them. My year as a first president went by really fast, and Ben took over as the second president, and then we added a lot of new people. I think John Chun came around about that time. Marianne and Michael Spearman came, and then Michelle Chen got to serve as president twice, I think. And then we added Professor Margaret Chun, who's our tour de force in the academia. So why am I haranguing you this evening about pro bono? A couple of years ago, when I was very active in the Superior Court Judges Association, I was trying to find ways to improve the working conditions of our judges and commissioners. The work is very gratifying, but the sheer number of cases that we have to process and decide is really staggering. So in researching how we improve our work-life balance, I came across a study that was done by a federal agency called AmeriCorps. The article talked about how people wanted not just to be happy at their work, but a sense of fulfillment, a real desire to find meaning in the work that they're doing and feeling like it contributed to some greater good. The study showed that Americans are more and more interested in working for a place that gives them time and respects and encourages and wants them to be good citizens in their community, to a point where having a job that allows them to fight the good fight and get paid may be worth foregoing a better paycheck elsewhere. What really caught my attention about the study was a quote from a church minister, who actually turned out to be a former lawyer. And she said that she gets called in the middle of the night from someone being sick or dying, but she also gets to be the first one at birth of a baby. And she said, I quote, "The fulfillment, I think, is really sharing life with one another." I think our current president talked about Jung earlier, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. I'm not asking everyone to drop everything and join seminary schools, but I think the notion that sharing life with one another gives you true meaning and fulfillment, I think rings so true today. You might ask, what authority that I have. I'm not a career counselor. I'm just a judge in Superior Court. But what I can tell you, having been a judge for almost 12 years now, is that as judges, one of the side benefits is that we get a glimpse of other people's lives and the decisions that they make at their most critical time in their lives. We do see a lot of unhappiness, but occasionally we also have front row seats to people who are incredibly courageous and work really hard to bring their lives back. I'm talking about the drug court graduates, family unity courts. They want to be united with their children again. At our last conference, we had a panel of victims' families. And I remember their talk, how incredibly hard it was to try to bring closure. And I remember talking to them afterwards and crying together. All right, I'm almost done. So I was given 15 minutes. I'm a judge. I have to follow the law here. I don't know how many of you know that in the word for lawyer in Korean, 변호사, the character 사 is actually different from others used in like prosecutor, 검사, or judge, 판사. I'm not trying to shame those who skipped out on the Korean school when you're young. The character in 변호사 is actually from the words concept 선비, which refers to a person who is a virtuous scholar with high moral character. I know that many of you in this room are in the middle of your resume building years. If you haven't already, I really recommend that you try out pro bono and public service. I can't overemphasize that and add that to your journey. It's not only a great training tool, but sharing your lives, your knowledge and skills with those who desperately need them is exactly what you're going to give you fulfillment and happiness that we're all craving for. I once read somewhere that you can tell a lot about a country by how it treats its immigrants and people who are incarcerated. When we got together 35 years ago, we were all virtually new in starting our practices. We didn't know much about a lot of things. We didn't even know the word access to justice back then. However, I think what we wanted to do was we felt like we had something to share. Our talents, our ability to find the law, our ability to speak the language and write English. That was enough for us. My challenge to this organization going forward is that you think about what's going to give you fulfillment and really focus on what is important in your lives. You know, I'm turning, I won't reveal my age, but as you get a little wiser over the years, you realize what's truly important. Friendship is important, Jung is important, actually it's the same as my last name. But I think if you focus on the important things in your life, I think this organization will grow, continue to grow, and bear a lot of fruit. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I hope I kept my 15 minutes and wish everyone the best of luck. Thank you.